Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Frédéric and I've been an artist for 10 years now as freelance, working in the world of 3D with Cinema 4D, Adobe Suite and other bunch of digital softwares. I developed a number of different projects over the years and we are going to break down some of those. In the first time, I'm going to show you the last update of my reel, so you can have a quick overview of some of my work that I've done as digital artist and also director. I hope you enjoy. Alright, so you can see a collection of my work there, and what we're going to do is breaking down today some of my personal projects. I'm going to show you quick tips used for this, also different aspects using redshift passes to get the look and feel that you want to achieve for your project, but also quick tips for using volume measure and motion tracking in Cinema 4D. My inspiration for a lot of this comes from the movies and books. Also, of course, a bunch of different great works from inspiring studios and artists, from filmmakers to painter. There is a lot to get inspired by. I have the chance to work and learn with some of many cool artists, and I always keep learning from every project. And I used to work in the world of 3D, but I really want to put live action in front of my creation aspects. As you will see on my next project, Shape, that I've done as a personal project, I use both, like CG and live action shooting. But now we are going to jump into scenes that I've done for this project, and I'm going to share with you quick tips about face tracking method and to manage with X particles emitter for shot, and also compare between CG shots and live action to get the results that you want for any project. In terms of storytelling and mood aspects, I just wanted to share that with you to manage both situations. Yeah, first here is the short film Shape. Okay, so for the first scene, I wanted to show you a quick tips about the face tracking sequence and motion tracking reconstruction method. For this shot, I used X particle to generate my trails, and I had to track his face to have an accurate effect and to have the effect moving with his head. So for the first try, I used a feature called Generate Mesh on Cinema 4D, which is very interesting. But I didn't use that much, but once or twice, that's pretty helpful. So as you can see, the motion tracking is done already. Instead of the emitter, the trails covering the face. And to do that, I've been to the motion tracker option, as we can see now, called Generate Mesh. So you can go to the attribute of the motion tracking feature, and on this one there is a Generate Mesh that you can see. This is a rough one, but still useful to emit your particles, as this example. Of course, the mesh is directly based on the footage, so you can't work with this one, but you have a non-accurate way to get the three-dimensional aspect of the footage. So this is basically a cool thing to work with, but of course this is limited for the next step. But yeah, this is a cool feature. You can easily generate some precise and accurate mesh on other footage, for instance. But this one was pretty interesting to use for this try. So yeah, as you can see, I used a vertex map for the selection. So here is the quick yellow dot I've drawn to put the emitter on, and like this you can use X particle or whatever you want to put the effect on the head. Okay, so for the second step, this is the same shot but wilder. So this is the following of the short film. I used another mesh, but this one was not generate mesh. It was a basic one, a basic mesh. I've just reshaped and resculpted to match the actor. As you can see, there is more particles and more emitters, but this is the same. This is the same spirit thing. For the covering face, I used also the vertex map, and as you can see, I've remapping a texture from the shooting, just to know exactly what I'm doing and where my effect will move and goes. So here it is, the mesh, more accurate, and you can use also the shadow from the trails and the ambient occlusion of the trails to match the live action footage once for the compositing. So here is the camera, and so I choose this version. But it was interesting to show you both, to have an idea of what we can do with the generate mesh. Of course, we can use it for a bunch of other examples, but yeah, it's an interesting way to use it. As you can see, this is the camera mapping of the footage, and I've matched the geo with the real one to have the right effect at the right place. As you can see, yeah, I've just changed some things, but yeah, anyway, this is the the cool part to use X particle, motion tracking, and the generate mesh feature. Yeah, so here it is, the vertex map to generate my points, yeah, typically the same way. Okay, for this shot, the POV motorcycle shot, I choose to make it in CG because it wasn't expected on the first edit of the film, and I just wanted to bring more intensity for this sequence, so I choose to do that from scratch, and I try to fit with the live action footage. This is the pass of the CG shot. This is the ambient occlusion Z pass. I used light passes too. I used a lot of them, maybe 4 or 5 passes to reconstruct in the compositing in After Effects. So this is the scene. I start from scratch. So I've rebuilt the set from the shooting, and I try to rebuild it in a 1:1 scale to have more accurate realism to mix with the real live action shots. So as we can see, I choose a wide angle focal length to have more sensation of speed and intensity. For the speed effect, I used a displacer on my mesh, including a box field and a fall off to concentrate the effect at the right position. I choose speed noise, of course, to have an animation for the leg and simulate the wind impact. I also rigged my character to give him natural movements for the hands, holding the handlebar, and the feet moving on the switch. Sometimes to have realistic animation, you have to overstate the moves to feel the sensations. I also put a wiggle effect on my camera to get more realism impact with the dampers to have imperfect move. It's quick and easy tips, but pretty useful when you have 1.5 minutes to do in CG. Sometimes from scratch and others based on footage. On this sequence I play with the fall off to have the right feeling with the animation. So here is a quick overview of my scene I use for 2 shots. The POV one and the next one I've also recreated from scratch to match my storytelling. Here is the quick animation of the bike and the light effect, and sometimes shooting don't fit with your ideas. The advantage to work with 3D is to have solutions to go over the issue. So even if it's more work than expected, it's sometimes essential to use physical and digital for your project. Compositing is very important to match to a realistic picture. Basically, we just want to push it to a more stylized direction to match the other shots. And for that, we need to make the render more efficient using light passes and some effect to achieve a nice frame. For the final grade, I used DaVinci Resolve to match the entire shots. So what we need now is to add the light passes together to have some brighter parts that we have to focus on, such the tank and the hero part. The background should feel more secondary to get the right direction for our eyes. So for that we need to bring more lightness in the foreground. As you can see, I did not use all the passes of the render. Even if it's still very important, sometimes you don't need to. The important part is to focus on the global mood first, and after we can add details and effects. My method is also to render with the depth field on. I've always seen a better result when it was included. For instance, if you take the reflection pass, we can add the specific detail to make the render cooler, using it in screening or adding mode, and you'll see tiny details, bringing more realism on the tank, make some adjustment with curves or level effect to reveal the highlights. For this shot, I did not use the ID passes. Normally I always put them on, but for this shot I used the compositing to push a little bit further the 3D in terms of density. The pass will bring you also cool stuff, create cool glows and give very natural light leaks, as you can see. But manage to have this pass in very light opacity to see them, but not too much, not to catch too much attention. And for the end, you can add the details for the lightning distortion and all the effect that brings more intensity for your shot. For the next shot, I wanted to show you a CG versus live action. How to make the shot working with your idea. I spent almost 5 days thinking about this shot, asking myself how can I make this shot working. So I decided to make several versions of that shot until the last one I've put on the edit. Yeah, I was confused about how to approach this one. So as you can see, I built a set from the shooting and add some assets from Quixel to bring more details. I also made different cameras to start finding the good one, and at the end the good one was the basic, to focus on the hero. So yeah, I will show you the motion tracking feature for this shot, a quick overview of the feature and how to use it properly and to get a good result. So here is the footage used for the tracking. Once the scene tracked, you have to use the constraint option to calibrate your space in 3D. So first, you have to choose a position constraint for your grid and your origin. For that, you just click on the point track of your scene, and that will give you the right place of a grid on the set. When it's done, you have to select the planar constraint to focus on the alignment with the ground. And for that, as you can see, you have to select 3 point track minimum, which is the y-axis for myself. And the third part, and the last one, is to define an axis, drawing a line with the vector constraint. For that, you need to select 2 inputs, and the lines should be drawn in parallel from X, Y, and Z. You have to be parallel from your elements. That's essentially crucial to match the grid. And you can also define the length of this vector at the end. That will give you the right position of your scene, and you can also click on the last feature of the motion tracker. This is the generate mesh button to create the rough mesh that I talked about earlier. Allows you to have more information to work with if you need to. And after all, you can also use it with Dynamesh or Remesher to use this geo properly, or even for something more abstract. A quick view to show you the native shot and all the things that reminds me a non-sci-fi look, like the trash, the signs, the light. All these elements had to be removed to fit the final look. I'll show you some old takes of this shot to give you an idea of what I've done to get the final one, playing with lights, camera movement. There is no time remaps on these shots, but yeah, give you an idea of the old versions that I've done. Medusa is a personal project done with friends, and during the 2020 weird year we wanted to get a nice title sequence and for this project we would jump into Cinema 4D to get the VDB tips and compositing overview with After Effects. The first thing we're going to look at is how we proceed to share the idea and how we manage to follow our references. For that, I've done a Pinterest assembling all the cool ref I wanted to collect. And once we had few elements to share, I start a Google Deck sharing with the crew, and we put all together the research, the concepts, the draws, stills, and even the look depth. And many of the shots were taken for the last edits, but some of these were just been off for storytelling reason. So for the first scene, we're going to jump into Redshift and After Effects to have a quick talk about light pass. For this shot, the Sharon shot, I recreate all the cave, the clothes, the boat, and wanted to give a look assembling some blue and orange colors. So I guessed the blue was the moon and orange the fire. Even in the background I put an orange lights, which is maybe out of the cave. But during the 3D work I didn't know the aspect of my final look. If I will bring more orange or just having the moon lighting my whole scene. So I've decided to cut every light on different layers. So in After Effects, I applied the layer on a new sequence, and as you can see, lights are separate. I also did volume lighting layers to bring more smoky ambient for each light. And all the shots were done the same exact way. For the details, I basically had some smoke and a light effect, such the fire itself. And you can also see the smoke layers on the water. And we always need to create a little bit more of excitement after the 3D render. Even adding small details that maybe nobody will ever notice, but the key is to use a workflow to help you and maybe solve problem or not re-rendering shots to add these small details. I also wanted to show you the shots that render directly out of Cinema 4D and the final one. For Medusa, I also used VDB Mesher, a cool feature which can be very powerful for some effects. And in this case, I used it for some grounds and walls. I'm going to set up a quick scene to show you a way to create ground with random geo using VDB. It helped me to quickly make some organic elements with different mesh and that you can easily replace. I used the VDB to make some big scale assets, which gives a great look once we work with the shader. And for Medusa, I used different workflow from VDB to ZBrush to build some rocks and Quixel. And for this scene, here's basically I would set up in Cinema 4D using MoGraph and a simple cube. So make them random using an effector and put them into a volume builder to generate the voxel, and of course a volume mesher to create a geometry based on our cubes. We can play with the threshold to get a nice result and get something even lighter. The cool thing with this workflow is to remove or hide the part you want and keep an organic cut between the geo. And at the end, if you want to put a big hole with an abstract field or boolean, the hole will take care of the edges as long as you put the geo in the VDB feature. I always put a puppet to make the scene with the right scale. But pay attention of the size of your geo. VDB don't like high-res geometry. So the grounds start to be randomized, and I choose the cubes, but you can replace the form whenever you want. Simply drag and drop into your MoGraph. And if you think your stage is too square, do not hesitate to play with shape, adding your personal asset sculpted by yourself, for instance. So if you think your setup is cool enough, you can add more cube or whatever you like to add more specific assets based on your idea. It could be columns or destroy walls or even sci-fi structures. And you can now add some redshift light and see how the ground reacts. And for this, the scale is very important to have a natural light hitting the geo. And if you used a tiny or massive scene, at the end you'll get issues with the result. But you know, not the kind of issues that just popping into your face, but just in terms of realism and impact for your eyes. So that's why I advise you to get the right scale from the beginning. Alright, so it was my last scene that I wanted to share with you today. We are going to go over right now to close everything out and just different things, that quick tips and the methodology to achieve your project. From composition, be sure to get some references when you work, and for instance when you use some passes, make sure to play with them to get every detail that you're looking for. Even for the camera motion, do not hesitate to use an organic movement to get something natural, using the motion tracking to recreate a realistic camera. And I hope you enjoy my quick presentation, and if you want to find out more and follow the work that I do, here is some lines. yeah, thank you very much to Maxon and Cinema4D to bringing me on and inviting me out here. Thank you to Matthias for your kindness and the help that brings to me. Yeah, so feel free to reach out me every time, guys. Get the link, and of course, if you have any question, feel free to use my email or whatever you like, Instagram or Twitter. Thanks again, guys, and have a good day. Thank you.